My name is Igor Witkowski. I am a researcher from Poland and author of around 60 books on the history of science and technology and on science and technology in the Third Reich in particular. Is everybody hearing me? Do you hear me? Is it okay? Sorry for the delay, 15 minutes. But I would like to tell you something about one specific research project that was initiated in the Third Reich. And also it has been described in my book. May I show it? Yeah. Die Wahrheit über die Wunderwaffe. There is a German edition of it. But what I would say today would be something that you cannot find in this book. Mostly, I mean, I have to introduce the subject, but most of it is not known for you, I believe. But firstly, let me introduce what I would like to talk about this research project. I know a couple of people in Poland from our intelligence services, and one of them has contacted me. It was in 1997 because they were in a possession of various files, such as protocols from the interrogation of prisoners of German prisoners of war from 1945-1947, and this prisoner, our services were interested in them because they were members of the so-called evacuations commando that says in Niederschlesien. And they were interested in this activity for obvious reasons, because they evacuated valuable things such as, works of art, various things. But during the interrogations, they have interrogated two SS officers. One was the name was Rudolf Schuster, and the other one was Sporenberg. They have, among all these things, they have described a research project that they evacuated, and it was something so strange. I mean, the description of the device they worked on, that they were never able to explain what was even the purpose of this project. And because of this, this man from intelligence service has contacted me, because I was a known, researcher, author of many books, and he asked me if I ever heard of something that was called the bow. And that's how my research has started generally. But one of the, I wouldn't probably remember after 17 years such a conversation if the story wasn't, maybe not interesting enough, but developing. And the longer I worked on it, the more intriguing it was. One of the most unusual details in all this story was that that this project was codenamed or classified as Kriegsentscheidend, and supposedly it was the most secret research project carried out by the Third Reich during the entire war. Before I the task that I you know, I made to myself was that to verify the very existence of such a project and such a device. But I started from trying to explain what it was. And maybe I should describe how the bell looked like. And there is some more. It looked like more or less like a bell. Only that this part that was visible, it was a ceramic cover. And the device itself was inside it. It was it looked like a ceramic insulator, such as insulators for high voltage current. And what was inside was two cylinders spinning in opposite directions. And inside the cylinders there was mercury. Quicksilver, yeah.
Quicksilver.
This device consumed very large amounts of high voltage current, and from the description it followed that some kind of electrical discharge took place inside the cylinders, during each of the experiment, because it was an experimental device, the cylinders were spinned in opposite directions with very high speeds. The mercury inside of the cylinders was evaporated and turned into a high temperature plasma, and it generated two vortices, two plasma vortices. You know, plasma, even in these light bulbs have mercury plasma inside. And you know how to describe it. You know, plasma is third state of condensation of matter. You have a solid state, liquid, gas, and plasma. Because gas differs from plasma in such a way that there are particles, such as oxygen, two atoms constituting a particle, you know, or any gas particles. But in plasma, there are separate atoms. And one of the, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit tired after such a travel. One of the things, of the details in the descriptions provided by these prisoners of war, these SS officers, was that certain scientific terms that were used to describe what was going on inside. Because it didn't resemble, maybe I should say why it didn't resemble. Maybe I should describe. Okay, I will describe such an experiment. Each experiment with the bell looked so that the bell was placed in an underground chamber room in a former mine, and after turning on the electric current, the cylinders started to accelerate in opposite directions, you know. After the plasma created inside of the cylinders was accelerated, it generated sound such as buzzing sounds, such as bees, like bees, you know, closed in a bottle. It generated a slight bluish, white bluish glow around, which I interpreted then as a ionizing radiation of some kind. But why it didn't resemble anything? Because it wasn't obvious what this device is doing in the first place. It was emitting various kinds of very harmful radiation. One could have impression that it was some kind of accelerator or something like that. But that was it. In order to explain what it was or what it might have been, I have returned to these scientific terms used by the Germans to who were servicing the bow. One such term was separation of magnetic fields, which didn't match any known picture, you know. And the other one was vortex compression. I will not, I cannot describe all the story of the bow, but in order to tell you the things that have not been described in the German edition of this book or are not available on the internet, for example, I have to make some, you know, some kind of introduction. And one of the okay, I have to tell you a short story, a short version of the story as to the what the bell was, how it looked like, how it worked. I will not describe the entire, you know, my path or journey, as the English say, of getting to the final solution of this riddle, because I cannot, in this time frame, I cannot do this. But what I can say is that the idea of separating magnetic fields, this is the key, is not entirely foreign for a scientist who is interested in physics, because the only, in fact, section of the physics that is referring to such ideas such as separating magnetic fields is the so-called relativistic physics, or the physics of gravitation or gravity, because there is an assumption in physics. It's an assumption, it hasn't been proven, that time-space, you know what time-space is, that time-space is to some extent linked with the fields that exist in this time-space. It means that one cannot have time-space without fields, or fields without time-space, because these things, as the physicists say, are coupled with each other, linked. One more detail that was available about the bell was the names of the key scientists, and the main one was Professor Walter Gerlach. So I started from doing some research. This is Professor Walter Gerlach, one of the most prominent German scientists. I started from doing some research on what he was doing before the war, because I assumed that there must have been some link, you know, even if the materials or his publications, you know, from the time of the war would be classified, then it should be some similarity to what he was doing before that. And indeed, I found numerous publications, articles written by Gerlach before the war on the vortices of Mercury. And for example, he started research on Mercury vortices, on spinning Mercury plasma in 1924. So it was long before the war, 15 years before the war. And there are several his scientific works or articles on Mercury, and but in order to explain the mystery of the bow, the speeding vortices of plasma and the separation and so on. In order to explain this, one has to go back to an article written by Professor Gerlach in 1927 in a scientific periodical known as Die Naturwissenschaften, where he has described his observation of ball lightning. Ball lightning is a Kugelblitz, you know. And he started to seeing some similarities. He started to wonder why such a vortex of high temperature plasma, a gas that is ionized, you know, and is spinning very fast. Why such a vortex is relatively stable, you know, because during electrical welding, you know, high voltage electrical discharge, there is sometimes such a situation, you know, that a sparkle, you know, a tiny spark or starlet, you know, of plasma is generated. But it leaves, because it is hot, there is a high pressure. You know, it's one follows from the other. You know, if you have a gas that is with very high pressure, high temperature, then, you know, it shouldn't live any very long. And normally, such a vortices of plasma, such as like during welding or Schweißen, lives for such a small fractions of a second that they are visible only on very high-speed photographs. So Gerlach started to wonder why it is possible that sometimes such a vortex of plasma lives not 100,000th of a second or 1,000th of a second, but a minute, for example, 60 seconds or half a minute. And it was because he saw this Kugelblitz from a very close distance. It made a big impression on him, and the ambition of his life was to unravel or to explain the mystery. What is the new physical phenomenon that we observe here? You know, by the way, it shows how that our modern world and our modern physics cannot see such a things, you know, by the way, because it's obvious that it's something very different, but they don't see it. Okay, doesn't matter. Gerlach started to wanted to explain what is new about it, why it doesn't dissipate, you know, how to say dissipate into, I'm not sure, how it is possible that it lives so long. And I didn't describe it in the German edition of the Wahrheit über die Wunderwaffe. He started to, he has contacted a Soviet Nobel Prize winner, Piotr Kapitsa, who has received Nobel Prize for the research on such a strange vortices, that occur in so-called superliquid liquids, such as we know essentially only one superliquid fluid, which is liquid hydrogen. Hydrogen or helium, I don't remember. Not hydrogen, I guess. Yeah. Kapitsa has described this as vortex, because, you know, what Kapitsa, why Professor Gerlach has contacted Piotr Kapitsa? Because Kapitsa has discovered something similar, only that in liquid helium. Sorry. namely that, you know, if you had a liquid helium here, or liquid hydrogen, I don't remember, and it would be at the temperature of the liquid hydrogen. It has to maintain this temperature, and you would, you know, stir this hydrogen. The vortex would never stop, and that's superfluidity or superliquidity. I don't remember how it is.
Der Wirbel hört niemals auf, hat gerade gesagt. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kapitsa has described it as a system that isolates or separates itself from the entire environment in a physical sense, you know. So when Gerlach wanted to understand why it's possible that such a ball lightning, Kugelblitz, doesn't lose energy apparently, because it is visible. If there was here a Kugelblitz, you know, flying over us, you would see that it has some energy, high energy, but it looks like it as if it wasn't losing this energy, you know, contrary to a normal situation, you know. And he started to exchange correspondence with letters, you know, with Professor Kapitsa, and he came to the conclusion that what is in such a vortex, such as Kugelblitz, or in the plasma vortices in Mercury that he researched, that it is a fundamentally different kind of vortex, you know, Wirbel. Vortex is Wirbel. That is something fundamentally different. That and it differs in such a way that it tends to completely separate itself from the environment. You know, that the separation in the case, for example, of the plasma vortex, such as Kugelblitz, which is a plasma vortex, is the order of 99.99999 and many 9%, you know. It's a perfect separation. It's not almost or very well separated. It's almost completely separated. And he started to do some research on this. And there was another outstanding German physicist, known, his name was Pascual Jordan, who has turned Gerlach's attention to the fact that there is a similarity or analogies to gravity, to gravitation. Because Pascual Jordan was, during the war, was working on a theory of gravity that was linking gravity with electromagnetic physics, electromagnetic interactions, which Einstein's theory is not doing. You know, it's not even making possible to make any connection between general theory of relativity and the quantum physics. And that's at this point I would interrupt the description of the, you know, how they were getting to the very idea of this revolutionary device, because at this moment what took place was a, you know, interjection, connection with the research that the SS was doing under Himmler. There was a organization within the SS which was called Ahnenerbe. Initially it was supposed to be just a scientific institution of the SS, research institution, main research institution of the SS, that was supposed to deal with excavations, which is Ausgrabungen, you know, trying to make a, you know, roots to the National Socialism and roots between, you know, connect National Socialism with ancient past and such things. But one of the things that the Ahnenerbe was working on was the various ancient sources of information, I would say. Not only Germanische Mythologie, not only Germanic mythology, but also other things, such as Tibetan manuscripts. There were 3 expeditions to Tibet, for example. There were various expeditions to various parts of the world, but one of the things that they were interested in was the ancient Greek mythology. And the project related to the bell had 2 code names. One of the code names was Chronos, such as Greek Chronos, God Chronos. And the other one was Laternenträger. And Laternenträger. Yeah. Yeah. Lucifer is the one that brings the light. We, for example, for a long time, me and the people that helped me had a very great difficulty in explaining such these code names. But eventually, we were trying to make connections, and various authors that were trying to, after me, were trying to explain the mystery of the bell, such as American authors such as Henry Stevens or Joseph P. Farrell, for example, and a couple of other people. They were, for example, interested in and attracted, in a way, by the codename Chronos, that they were looking for some, references to time, and they eventually were almost seeing a time machine in the bell. Understood it as a time machine without any deeper explanations, obviously, because it's not possible to explain how a time machine would work. But eventually, I and my co-worker from Argentina, Jeffrey Brooks, we have managed to explain this, the mystery of these code names, and it was essentially Jeffrey Brooks has explained it and found very interesting materials on this research by the Ahnenerbe related to the Greek mythology, and it has turned out that the code name Chronos, the 2 code names were there were 2, because one referred to the physical aspect of the bell, and the other one referred to the biological or medizinische, how it is. I don't know how it is.
Problems.
But so that's why there were 2 code names. Jeffrey Brooks has gathered and collected very, shocking material on the Ahnenerbe, and one of the things that was there was that explanation of the code name Chronos. It didn't have anything to do with time, but with the god Chronos, who represented who was, associated with the time of changes on earth, such as when people would take the power of the gods, such a things. I will not explain everything here, because this thread is not so important. But the other code name Laternenträger, which some people initially associated with Lucifer, which is somebody who brings the light, or there were also references to the 18th, 19th century times where a man lighting up lamps on the streets was called Laternenträger. because he was going. Yeah.
Lucifer is not Satan.
Yeah, I know.
Satan.
I know.
Okay, okay.
I know. Laternentrega. Okay. And Jeffrey Brooks has discovered that the codename Laternentrega referred not to any man, but to a goddess, woman god, you know, named Hecate, because she was in possession of an object that was hanging on her from her neck, you know, and it was called strophalos. It was something that contained a vortex of something that was shining, emitting light, a vortex. It was described in the Greek mythology as a spinning flame. It was emitting light, and that's why the goddess Hecate was known as Laternentrega. And Himmler was the chief of the SS, was so much impressed by this story that he started to make research on the construction of such a device, this strophalos. Because from the description, from the Greek mythology, it follows that this device had magical, almost magical, properties, such as interdimensional, I would say, various strange things. So Himmler was very much interested. And at some point before the war, these two lines of research, such as by Professor Gerlach and by the SS by Ahnenerbe, has overlapped each other, or somebody has noticed that strange similarities between these descriptions, because in both cases there was a, in the case of this plasma vortices, mercury, Quecksilber, Silber vortices, Wirbeln, one could also say that it was a flame, that was spinning, and it was supposed to generate similar effects. So that's why the SS took over the entire research project, initiated it, connected all these various pieces of the puzzle, such as Gerlach, Ahnenerbe, Kapisa, other things, connected and turned it into a research project, which eventually, as soon as in 1942, was officially classified as Kriegsentscheidend, the most secret research project carried out by the Third Reich. And as I mentioned, I cannot tell you everything about it, because it's already almost an hour, half an hour, but no, I just cannot talk for hours, I will tell you, it's a fraction of what I would like to tell you, but I cannot tell you everything about it, because in my book it's, I don't know, 100 pages or so. Okay, I will not describe the activities during the Second World War, but because you are interested in Neuschwabenland, I will tell you about the evacuation of the Bell at the end of the war or shortly after the war. The project was carried out in Niederschlesien, which is now Poland, first in Fürstenstein by Waldenburg, then later in a former mine in Dorf, Ludwigsdorf, in the village of Ludwigsdorf, and at the end of, yes, there is such a device, but it won't tell you much, but because it might have been used for the research on the Bell, and that's by the way a modern accelerator resembling the Bell. It's similar in such a respect that You know, you may not see it from such a distance, but there is plenty of cables, very thick electric cables. It's something quite similar. It doesn't. It's not spinning vortices of Mercury, but it's something that is used to generate high temperature plasma. It's in Warsaw. Yeah. Okay, but I would tell about the evacuation and I don't know what has happened to the bell or to the bells, because there was more than one. There were many of them. There were many of them. Probably they were manufactured on some larger, than laboratory scale, because the Germans during the war started to import mercury, Quecksilber, from Spain, and only one transport of Quecksilber from Spain amounted to 4,400 tons of mercury. One transport. So it is possible that it wasn't just one bell, but nevertheless, I don't know what happened to the device, because it was quite large. It was 3.5 meter high, and probably weighing many tons, But it is likely that these bells were left where they were tested in this former mine, because there is no access to the underground part, never was after the war, and it is possible that it was left there. But what was indeed the most important was the know-how, the documentations, and they were evacuated from Flugplatz in Schweidnitz by Waldenburg by plane to Norway, and from Norway to Uruguay in South America. The Polish intelligence has found out about it because they have arrested a German courier in 1947 who was interrogated, and the only document that he had was a Uruguayan Ausweis. I'm not sure if in English there is such a thing as Ausweis.
ID card.
ID card, yeah. No, it wasn't card, it was such a small, such as eine Legitimation. Ein kleiner Dokument. Kleiner als die Zigaretten. And he didn't contribute very much. I have to tell you one thing before I will start to describe this South American and Antarctic thread, that I have to tell you that initially I was approaching all the theories about the secret base in Antarctica with more than caution. I mean, I thought that it would be just impossible for such a base to be there, to be built there, and not being detected or discovered after the war, because there is no infrastructure, a very hostile environment, in the Antarctic. And initially, I thought that such a thing would be impossible. A base. Later on, I have found out, I have heard from a veteran of Polish Antarctic research, Professor Machowski, that he has written it in his book on the history of the human activities in the Antarctic, that during the war, it's a quotation, during the war, the Antarctic territory has been, drawn into a. I don't remember how he wrote it exactly, but that the Antarctic has become a scenery of war, various war actions, such as that the German Kriegsmarine was using various islands in the vicinity of the Atlantic coast for the sogenannte Stützpunkte. But still, I was distancing myself from such a, notion that a secret base in the Neuschwabenland could have existed. But only after, after the, after I heard from Professor Machowski, from this man, that there maybe not necessarily was a base, but maybe Stützpunkte or other, posts in the Antarctic, not necessarily a large base such as, from a movie. Then my attitude has changed a little bit, and it has changed much more after one incident that I will describe to you. This courier from Uruguay, he was a German, arrested in 1947, was, as I mentioned, interrogated. But he didn't know very much. But basically, the only thing that he could say was that these things, his mission or the organization that he represented had something to do with very far south, South America, far south, and with something that was called Ebores. He heard on numerous occasions, on various occasions, such a code name, Ebores, and nobody could say if it was a geographical name or a code name or name of some person or anything. So essentially, for 60 or 70 years, 60 years, it remained a mystery. But a friend of mine has explained this mystery a couple of years ago. He was I will not give you his name, but it's not necessary anyway. But he is he's a Pole with a Polish and a German passport. He has a house in Munich and somewhere in the United States. He lives more in the United States than in Germany, sometimes in Poland. So it's such a multinational person, and he is quite a rich man. And a couple of years ago, he attended a party organized for a conference, in fact, organized for German investors in the United States. And part of it was a party, banquet, or how it is in German, I don't know. And he was talking with various people, with various other investors, not knowing them personally. But when he has heard, he knows the story of the bell very well because he read my book a couple of times, I guess. So when on one moment, sorry, I'm tired. On one moment during a party in Washington, he has found out that a person with whom he talks, he's German, born in Argentina, who emigrated to the United States and is very, very rich. So it arose his, suspicion or some sixth sense. I don't know how to say it. And I wouldn't say that he started to suspect that he's a Nazi from Argentina or something like that, but something, some associations started to appear in his head, and he just asked him a question, because the other one drank some alcohol before, so it was a loose atmosphere, friends, German, Heimat, and such a things, and he asked him, after finding out that he is a very rich German from Argentina, that do you know about the Boris case? And the answer was, yes, I do. And was it done really? Was it done, executed? Only one such a shelter was built, and that was it. It was never finished. And later on, he found out that the Boris was a code name of an operation to build concrete shelters for a U-boat, for repairing U-boats in Patagonia and probably in the Antarctic territory, on the Antarctic islands and so on. There was such a plan, but supposedly only one such a shelter was built. And he has also heard that his father, who turned out to be Gottfried Sandstede, he was a resident of the SD, Sicherheitsdienst, in Argentina, responsible for the maritime, sea evacuations with ships to Argentina. So he was it was his father. And he also said, his son has said, that yes, his father was doing various things, but even 6-month duty in the Antarctic. So what I would like to tell you is that initially I was approaching all such theories about Neuschwabenland with, reservation or distrust. But after this, I have changed my mind, and I saw that there must have been something in it. I still find hard to believe that it might have been any large base, but something was going on there for sure. I'm sure of that. And obviously, one may draw a conclusion from this story, from this description, that South America and Argentina in particular also played an important role, and everything indicates, I have to say it shortly because I cannot, if I tell you that everything indicates, I cannot explain everything because I don't remember anything even. But and everything indicates that the project related to the bell was continued in Argentina. In Argentina, Argentina after the war had quite, I would say, substantial nuclear ambitions. They wanted to build nuclear power plants, nuclear bomb, and so on. And they have built in 1949 in the town of Bariloche, which is in the south of Argentina, 1,400 kilometers southwest from Buenos Aires, a research center known as Centro Atómico Bariloche, which officially was working on nuclear fusion. Fusion is, if you want to generate nuclear reaction in uranium, it's fission. It's, how to say it? Zersplitterung?
Yeah, zersplitterung.
Fusion is joining the atoms, such as in plasma, in tokamak, yeah. Thermonuclear bomb is, fusion bomb. So officially, this research center, Centro Atómico Bariloche, was working just on nuclear physics, on building a thermonuclear reactor and such things. But for a long time, I suspected that it's not the entire truth, and there is a lot of information indications saying that the thermonuclear research project was a cover-up for research on such vortices with quite large vortices connected with the I forgot with the gravitational research, because I forgot to tell you that. No, I told you that about the relativistic physics and so on. I forgot to tell you that the only possible explanation of such a device, such as the ball, is gravity, and anti-gravity, to be exact. But okay, I will finish about as far as Argentina and the Central Atomic Bariloche is concerned, there are relations of witnesses who are saying that that they were continuing this research project out there, and such as there was one German physicist named Ehrenberg, Professor Mariscotti, who is one of the best historians in Argentina, has also described that they were working on ball lightnings or Kugelblitze. But first and foremost, there is a documentation from on the scientists collected by the Americans, by the United States, which is available in the U.S. archives, and their documents they have been recovered, saying that not only that there was a continuation of the research project by the German scientists in Argentina, continuation of what they were doing earlier in the Third Reich, but also that the aim of this was building an anti-gravity propulsion system. There, as I mentioned, there are documents. I didn't take them because I have a book in my car where there is a reproduction of this document. I may show you a little bit later. We may make a short break, couple of minutes of break, okay. And I may show you something like this. Yes, but so there is a confirmation, and the Neuschwaben. I'm not sure if it was Neuschwabenland, aber Antarctic und Argentinien had something to do. I'm sorry for such a saying in German English. Had something to do with this, and I was also contacted by the group that is keeping control over this case over the bell in Argentina. I've been contacted by them, and I've got couple of documents from them, and we have exchanged a couple of words, not directly, but you know, they hired a guy who was gathering information on me, and it happened that I know him, so I found out that they were gathering information on me. So there was some short exchange of short information, but not much. But it also confirms that that it has something to do with gravity, and what is the most important in all this story, I guess that it is the most important, is that not the potential for the Third Reich, but the potential for the future, in fact. Because, you know, it's difficult, if you will meet a so-called relativistic physicist, which means a physicist working on gravity or gravitation, and you will try to tell him or her that you may generate gravity by spinning plasma, it would be very difficult. It wouldn't get to such a person. He wouldn't understand it. Just because the Einstein's theory doesn't make any connection to quantum physics in the first place, but also there is no such there is no way, there is no place in the Einstein's theory for spinning of anything. It doesn't play any role. Only after the Einstein's theory was published, a French physicist named Thierry Theory, I guess theory. Eugene Theory, I don't remember his first name, has proposed a modification of the general theory of relativity, and it is called presently an Einstein theory. Sorry, and it incorporates the spinning of any mass of anything or a field, but what it say, this theory, is that such a gravity generated in such a way it would be very, very small, so that perhaps in the vicinity of a spinning black hole it could be significant, but not in any laboratory conditions, you know, and that's what any scientist would tell you. But what is what is interesting here is that there were, in spite of this limitation, you know, in spite of the fact that science tells you that it's impossible to build any propulsion system or engine in such a way, there were a couple of research projects initiated in recent years, which demonstrate that. First one was was made by European Space Agency, or ESA, a couple of years ago. I don't remember when it was, but
23rd March 2006.
Yeah, and if
on
you
the birthday of Werner von Braun, they published it.
Mm-hmm. And if you would like to find out something about it, you may type in the browser ESA Martin Timar. Timar is such as German name Timar. Österreicher.
Yeah.
And you will find an article on this research project.
On
so
on your website too.
I don't remember. I don't remember. Okay. And what they were doing was that they didn't do it with plasma, because it is quite difficult to make such a device. It would be an accelerator generally, and probably would cost millions of dollars and so on. So they did it with superconductors, because I forgot to tell you, Kugelblitz, ball lightning, is a kind of vortex that is called soliton. It separates the lines of magnetic fields are completely closed. It's closed system, completely closed system, and therefore it separates magnetic fields. But one may separate magnetic fields in other ways as well. One of them is by using superconductors, because superconductor also separates magnetic field completely. And the research project carried out by the European Space Agency was using superconductors. And the research project carried out by the European Space Agency didn't generate much, great force in terms of anti-gravity, but nevertheless it has demonstrated that the anti-gravity generated by separating magnetic fields and spinning them is 10 to 21st power stronger, which means 1 and 21 zeros stronger than than scientists thought before, than the Einstein theory predicts, for example. So, but it was with superconductors, which means quite low energies, low spinning velocities, because superconductor wouldn't withstand any high energies, But recently, this year, NASA has published information on their research project on anti-gravity, which in turn uses a plasma vortex. I don't know what are the results of this research project, but as far as I remember, I just don't remember everything. As far as I remember, sorry, the results were also stunning. I mean, it is a revolution that is going on before our very eyes. And okay, so this recent research carried out in Europe, in the United States, and in other places shows that it is really a promising direction to build something revolutionary. So what I would like to say, you know, summarizing that what I was saying, is that it is very important, but not only as a piece of history, but also as a piece of our future, because when this project will, when such a direction of will be exploited, and the device will be reproduced eventually, it will, it is the most profound discovery from the point of view of our future, because it will not also revolutionize physics itself, showing that scientists were unable to see very fundamental connections that are present around them. These are very simple phenomena. The very idea is very simple. But it will also, not only it will make space travel possible, but there is also another thing that I didn't describe, for example, in the German edition of the Wahrheit über die Wunderwaffe, is that this device, after, it consumed electric energy to accelerate the cylinders with the mercury inside. But after they started spinning, it didn't consume any energy, only for, Anlass.
Nur zum Anlassen, genau.
Yeah.
Then it spins all the time.
Like with the ball lightning, Kugelblitz. You need energy, high voltage, to create it, but not to sustain it. It doesn't consume any energy. So, in the documents from the American paperclip files that I mentioned about them when I said that they are a confirmation that they were working on generating gravity in order to make a propulsion and so on. There is also a mention, because it's quite a documentation, it's not one page of paper. There is also mention that what amazed them, I mean the German researchers during the war, what amazed them the most was the fact that energy came out of nothing. Yeah. And it's not the only such a reference, not the only one. And I'm not sure how open you are, but I may say you, if you would like for me to develop this thread, to say something more about it later on, I may tell you as much as you would like to hear. But what I may say you is that this story generally, the story of the bell and its consequences, are attracting quite a substantial interest on the part of the extraterrestrial civilization. I don't know how many UFOs I have seen. I don't want to tell you too much about it. I mean, I'm not sure if I should, but even Mr. Naglik, with whom I was arranging this visit here, more or less at the time that we were talking about it, he saw 2 UFOs over his head. A couple of days ago here in Berlin, for example. So it's something, the potential for the future is, there couldn't be anything more important, I would say. Okay.
Okay. No.
As I mentioned, there is a document about research carried out in the Third Reich and in Argentina, in a set of documents, in fact, available in the U.S. archives, NARA archives at College Park near Washington, which says, for example, you was interested particularly in this, that research on new concepts, plasma systems, experimental approach to the unified field theory, experimental one, into research on the velocity of propagation of gravity, and also nuclear propulsion system, because generally for the Germans during the war it was a nuclear project, because in fact it was a nuclear, because mostly nuclear scientists were working on this, because it the project concentrated, in fact, on reducing radiation by, various side effects, and because these side effects resembled what was observed in the case of nuclear physics, then mostly nuclear physics physicists worked on this. Okay.
Polnische kann ich leider nicht lesen.
Nein. Ja, aber Dokument ist in Englisch.
Ja, das Dokument habe ich ja durch.
What more? And there is a lot that I didn't say, but for example, there was something, another one, such a drawing. I don't remember. Not here. No. Okay, doesn't matter. One of the Annenerbe of the SS was also interested in not just in Greek mythology but also in Tibetan sources. Tibetan manuscripts contain quite specific descriptions of flying machines propelled by in a very similar way as the bell work, and one of them, the Tibetans didn't have a word for high voltage, for example, or they did have a word for mercury, and mercury propulsion is described in many ancient Tibetan or Indian books. And they even go on to say that these machines of the gods utilized an energy that is unknown to humans, that it is something called vril. This is a German publication from the 1920s, I guess, I don't remember. Vril, die kosmische Urkraft, Wiedergeburt von Atlantis, von Johannes Teufel.
Ist eine Ableitung von den Vrillianern.
Aha. Vril was energy, according to the Tibetan descriptions, was energy linking various kinds of energy, such as the energy of the thunder, which we may translate into electromagnetic forces, and so it may be translated into our modern language, and as you can see, the Germans and the SS was aware of such links. And another thing is that there are such drawings. I'm not sure about the sources of this. It's still suspicious. Nevertheless, this is a flying saucer called Vril 9, Abjäger, Abfangjäger, which on this drawing you may come closer later on and see it. There is a bell, which is presented here as only part of a much larger system, and me and also the other people who were working on this in Poland in the special services, they always, and I myself as well, they always suspected that the bell was the Glocke was only a part of a larger system, but it could never be, you know, developed. But here, for example, I'm not sure if it's credible, this drawing, but here, for example, it is shown as part exactly that there is a shaft from the going as a, you know, the axis of the bell. It goes much lower, and it is a shaft that connects it with a kind of a larger propulsion system or something like that. I'm not sure if it's credible, but there are such a, you know, drawings with the bell, a couple of them. Yeah. What else? This is one. Sorry, and this is another one. When also one may have the impression that this is the shaft of the bell, and this might have been the bell, because it's this description, this drawing that I showed you is just a fantasy. It's not exactly how it looked like. It looked like more like I have a drawing here, just more accurate. Just a moment, sorry. Yeah, more like such a thing, and the high voltage cable was connected to the top here. This is a ceramic cover, and so on.
How much kV, you know it?
Excuse me?
How much kV the high voltage cable? What is that?
How much?
Voltage, the voltage, how much?
Around half a million, half a million volts.
500,000.
Yeah. And Professor Gerlach didn't ever write after the war, because he was a rector of the Munich University, and therefore he had much to lose. So he didn't write anything basically after his wartime activity. But there was one exception. It was a Tagungs, the conference of the AG in 50er Jahren. I don't remember exactly when, but it's in the sources. Where he said, and it has been written and is available from the, you know, as Tagungsmaterial from the AG conference and so on, that he was using a generator for 500,000 volts, and obviously it could never be explained officially, according to the official history, what he might have needed it for, because you know, Gerlach was not the only prominent scientist who was such a mysterious person in such a way that nobody knew exactly. He was a president des Reichsforschungsrates, for example. So one could have one has to assume that he must have been deeply engaged in activities important from the point of view of the war. Kriegsentscheidende or kriegswichtige Arbeiten. But nothing is available. And another, and you know, such a grey eminence is such a word in Deutsch? Graue Eminenz. Sorry, Graue Eminenz. And another such a grey eminence was Professor Zenger, who was father of the German space research generally, but nobody could say anything about what he was doing during the war. It's hard to assume that he was doing nothing. It's another such a case, and Zenger had something to do with the SS. I can say it for sure, but when I was looking for, I was working in various archives throughout the world, in many countries, and once in the U.S. NARA archive near Washington, I have found the American files on Professor, not Professor Zenger, Hermann Obert, sorry. On Hermann, which is, by the way, another such a person that we know very little about. In fact, we know that he was designing a space shuttle or a space bomber, you know, but nothing specific. We know nothing about his activity during the war. In the files of Professor Hermann Obert, I found information that he was an ardent occultist. He is very much interested in occultism. So it's another, you know, page of the history of the Third Reich.
Like Himmler. He was occultist too. Huh? Oops.
Is there anything that you would like for me to tell you?
Yes. What do you think was the Glocke? For what purpose they made it?
You know, it might have been a part of something, but a crucial part of a propulsion system, because with this data that we have today on the link between electromagnetism and gravity, we may say for sure, and plasma physics, we may say for sure that it would have generated significant anti-gravity forces. Significant. Perhaps it would have needed something to control the flying craft, you know, subsystems for various, I don't know, purposes, but I see it as an anti-gravity device.
Okay. And do you think they had made some, you said they had more than one, they finished the work here and built it in such a craft? Before the end of the war? Or
I don't know.
And after the war?
I don't know. You know, the state of this research was such that only in March or February 1945 they have overcome the main problem so far, which is that the main problem is that if you have such a cylinder and the plasma is spinning, the velocity, you know, there was the Americans have made a research project in the 1990s, which was codenamed Shiva Star, and you know, the aim of it was to generate such a plasma vortices, and they have managed to achieve 10% of the speed of light in the plasma. So the problem is such that if you have such a vortex spinning so fast, then any collision of the ions, heavy ions, with the electrodes or other, you know, parts of the device generates quite a strong neutron and other kinds of radiations. And the Germans until early 1945 couldn't overcome this problem of generating this radiation, because they eventually have managed to reduce it by, you know, 10 times or so. So in the spring of 1945, only 2-4% of the biological samples were damaged, for example. So I think that maybe they have perfected the bell before the end of the war, but I don't think that they would have enough time to you know, to go any further. Some amount of mercury was inside, and it was spinned. at high velocity initially, before turning on the power, the high voltage. So the mercury was accumulated in a form of, torus on the circumference. And there was an axis here. There was an axis. And one electrode was the circumference of the mercury, and the other electrode was the axis. So when it was spinning, and they turned on electric, current, it started to be attracted to the axis. But because it had already a certain, momentum of rotational momentum, so it was spinning faster and faster as it was accelerated towards the axis, So at some stage there was an equilibrium, and it created a torus, and donut, like a vortex, this way. That's how it is. The other name for the bear then. There was one name was used that was the Glocke, but also the other name was the Bienenstock. Some people suggested to me that it might have been because it generated sound resembling bees, closed in something, such as a transformer station. It's such a buzzing sound, humming sound. But another, also in the case of modern accelerators, such a configurations where you have two vortices, because such a configuration is known to science, is also called a Bienenstock configuration, not because of the sound, but because these vortices, because they repel each other, because they spinning in opposite directions. They form such a something that resembles the nest of wasps, for example, such an egg-like shape.
Ich habe, glaube ich, in Ihrem Buch gelesen, dass Sie Ende der 80er Jahre bei jemandem waren, der irgendwelche Artefakte aus UFOs hatte auf seinem Tisch.
Ja, weil sagen Sie noch einmal.
Ich habe in Ihrem Buch gelesen, dass Sie Ende der 80er Jahre, als Sie angefangen haben zu recherchieren, bei jemandem waren vom Intelligence Service, also Geheimdienst, glaube ich, dass der irgendwelche Artefakte aus dem UFO hatte auf seinem Tisch. Und,
ich?
Ja, waren Sie das nicht?
Nein, ich kenne zwei Leute, die
in English, please, yeah.
I know two people from our military in Poland who were gathering reports on the UFOs.
Yeah.
One I know personally, which is Colonel Oberst Grundmann. He was gathering such reports, but I also once I met a man from General Staff, which means military intelligence. It's not a secret. His name was Wojciak.
Richtig, Wojciak, genau.
And what he was able to show was not just single-page reports, but it was such a pile of materials on one case only.
Oh.
Yeah. So one report on because there was a report in that over a military unit in Ustka, which is an Ozzekust.
Yeah.
There was a UFO observed by a soldier on the ground, by the radar, and by a pilot of a helicopter, I guess.
Yeah.
And in this case, there was such an investigation that they wrote such a book, such a thick, such a book only that large and in format,
Yeah.
on the possible effects, such as reflections of the radar wave from the ground that could affect or the malfunctions of the entire research on the examination of the radar, of all the radio equipment, everything. So, yeah, and it was a public meeting in 1986, I guess, and it wasn't a secret at all, contrary to what the Americans were doing. It wasn't secret. No, and in a similar was the case in the Soviet Union, when there were very interesting things going on, and they were not making any secret of it. I mean, it wasn't that anyone can go and take these materials, but it wasn't a secret.
Yeah.
And personally, I saw many UFOs.
Yeah.
Many.
Yeah. What do you think the military service or the intelligence service are thinking about UFOs?
I don't know.
You don't know? They didn't
What
say to you?
What are they?
Your informants?
I mean, with the personal, impression was such that it is obvious for them that it is extraterrestrial. But it was my personal. I'm not sure if there was any written anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they are just not dealing with such philosophical questions. Their task was to explain whether it might have been this or that, and that's it. I'm not sure if they plunge into deliberations on other civilizations, because the military is not what it is for.
So
you may personally ask such a person.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
but
that means they don't have a contact with them, or they don't say that they have a contact with them. Well, if they come from outer space, they can say, "Hey, we come from Venus, and I'm."
Yes, it all depends.
The Botschafter.
It all depends on the level of these people that were doing this, because officially, I'm not sure if anybody was asking them a question about such a thing. Mm-hmm. Whether it was extraterrestrial, because I don't think so.
Oh, okay. As they know the UFO problem.
It's a political problem.
Political
more than Lower Silesia, or Niederschlesien, was a part of Germany that where many, hundreds of factories were evacuated, because it was a region that wasn't bombed, wasn't in danger with bombings, nicknamed by Minister Goebbels as Reichsluftschutzraum, and also very many underground facilities were built there. In many cases, they were never uncovered after the war. And one of such a place was it's a mountain southeast from Breslau. Wie heißt es in Deutsch?
Zottenberg.
Ja?
Zottenberg.
Aber das gibt noch andere Namen, auf welche ich weiß nicht genau.
Yeah. There was a Polish major of military counterintelligence post in Breslau, Major Szorek, who was very much interested in this place, and he has found, as an official counterintelligence officer, he has found there many O-ring, very small things, such as rubber, ceilings, various such things in such a canals for draining every such a underground facility has to be drained. But among other things, one very strange thing he has found. I mean, not one, many, like from X-Files. It was such small glass cylinders maybe 3-4 millimeters in diameter, couple of centimeters long. And in each one of them, there was a, it was both endings were, convex, so that you could look inside such a small glass cylinder like through a magnifying glass, You understand it? And in each one of them, it was glass. In each one of them was a microphotograph, which you could look at thanks to the fact that the surface was concave. And these photographs presented common things: a church, a road, a mountain, such a things. Nothing special. So it could never. He could never explain what was the purpose of it, but it was very strange. But I don't know what is underground of there exactly, because nobody got there after the war. I don't know exactly about this event that you mentioned, but the problem is genuine. Maybe some governments would like to use it for their own purposes, but the phenomenon is, in my opinion, genuine, because I saw it personally, and
it's real. Yeah.
Okay. My impression is, I don't know exactly about this case, but I'm not sure if you noticed, but the Russians have recently, in recent years, have disclosed a couple of interesting things about it. And I think that, it's Englishmen would say, I think. It's not that I think, but
there's a bit more, huh?
Yeah, something is about to happen, and they would like to play this card, in some way, but it's not that they are afraid of it. We will see. I know that you would like to think about it as a Third Reich, technology, but it's what the Germans wanted to do was to reproduce something that was already existing.
Yeah.
It's not that one explanation rules out the other one. It's it's an extraterrestrial link in the case of the Third Reich, I would say.
Maybe.
Because it's not that it contradicts the extraterrestrial hypothesis. We will see soon.
So the extraterrestrial helped the Nazis, yeah?
No.
No?
No.
Well,
the Nazis have understood and utilized the technology with tacit approval of the other forces, but perhaps the Germans thought that it's for them to win the war, but it wasn't the right conclusion. It wouldn't be right conclusion, because they didn't want the war. The purpose of it was very different, not having much to do with the Third Reich. They were not they had not the right, it was impossible for the Germans during the war to understand that they may play a role in something that goes much farther, much beyond. But that's what the case. It was a game, like any game. They were used, but it was an extraterrestrial technology understood by them. But it wasn't just by them on their own. They had maybe not assistance, but acceptance.
Uh-huh.
Because it suited It's hard to say it. So because I'm giving you only the conclusion, not without the way that I got to this conclusion. But let's end it with saying that it might have been something more complex than they imagined. Oh, this way.
Ja, da gab es damals das Projekt Riese. You know the project Riese?
Yes.
Das ist Schloss Fürstenberg hing damit zusammen, ne? Kann es sein,
Ich
dass
habe
das komplex war?
Okay, I would say, but I have found a document in Bundesarchiv,
Naja.
which was classic. It had, by accident. It shouldn't. I shouldn't find it because it was by mistake had different signature. By mistake, I have found a document of Kammler about the so-called Sonderbauvorhaben S3. And Riese was part of the Sonderbauvorhaben S3, just a part, along with other facilities in the vicinity.
But I have a question. Sonderbau 3, Jonastal and Thüringen? Jonastal?
Sonderbauvorhaben was
S3,
a category of objects. One S3 was in Jonastal, one S3 was in Niederschlesien.
It's apart from
In Niederschlesien also war auch ein S3. Wer weiß wo noch?
It was,
das wissen wir nicht.
Vorhaben was the factories, kriegswichtige Fabriken. B-Vorhaben was Kooperanten und solche. S-Vorhaben waren die zentrale command posts and central institution and command posts of the state. That was S3, for example, and one S3 was there. One was. It was a kind of underground, capital of the state, with all the telecommunication equipment, including storage sites for weapons of mass destruction, such as chemical weapons. In Jonastal, it was object Yasmin. Tabun was, for example, and the same was in the case of the Sonderbauvorhaben S3 and Riese.
You are inside in the project Riese, in the systems, in the underground systems? Were you inside, or is it all for water?
Yes.
Yeah,
There was a special technology for the secret of the systems, and it was the Kammler. What is the name for the? It's a German fruit, Birne. Electrical Birne, elektrische Birne. Wissen wie ich es nennen soll.
Kammlerbirne, ja.
Kammlerbirne, ja. They take the energy from the body and takes it very quickly from the body, and the most people are very
They get out in a
get
few
out and
seconds.
break down.
Oh, okay. That is a good last word for the moment. Maybe we see us next year. Maybe. Thank you so much.